I do want to use my music as a platform for social change. I definitely don't think that that musicians should be bound to only do that, but I do think that it's important that musicians do it. So one of the coolest things I think that's happened recently is there's a rapper, he'd be considered a mumble rapper or whatever, Lil Baby, who released a song, I forget the name of the song, but he's talking about everything with related to Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and like the protests and whatnot. And this guy is straight up like trap bangers about slinging drugs and whatnot. And it's really poignant to me that he did that because he's still super young. He's huge. But he talks about how like he's like, yeah, I understand that I've rapped about killing people. But how I came up, I had to survive. And I regret a lot of this stuff, but it doesn't have to be that way for other people because we can change the system. The system is flawed. The system creates people like me. That's like, but it was in like a dabba over a trap beat. And I'm just like, yo, like there are rappers who are conscious rappers, right? Like your Kendrick Lamar's and Lupe Fiasco's and whatnot, and a bunch of underground people. But having somebody use his voice, I think to an extent, I think it's your responsibility as an artist to at least do it to a degree. But everybody doesn't do that. There's a James Baldwin quote that I'm not going to butcher, but he basically deals with the responsibility of an artist. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. So for me, like the last month's Bandcamp day, I had 2 songs I was sitting on that are heavily about racial injustice, and the like song Too Soon is like racial injustice and gun violence and healthcare problems and whatnot. And instead of like trying to make some extra money, I just said I'm donating the proceeds from these 2 songs. It literally was like 3 posts or something like that. Like 2 Instagram posts, like 4 or 5. It's like 2 Instagram posts, 2 Facebook posts, a couple Twitter posts. Raised like $1,100. And that's not like that's a drop in the bucket for what's needed, but I think it's really cool to do that, but I also see a lot of artists doing it. I've been asked to be a part of a bunch of live streams since COVID hit that were fundraisers that people put together. And you know, Rand did I forget what game he was playing, but he did a set of live streams and raised like $15,000 for bail funds. That's like the entire legal process for some people, you know? No, because like to a degree, I'm a black guy. I grew up in the South. I've been pulled over without reason dozens of times. I've had officers not believing what I said. I was doing what I was doing and grab their guns. I used to like strategically keep white girls with dads who had lawyers as fathers on the phone when I got pulled over and just ask them not to say anything, just put the phone down, take it on speaker, just basically take it down. So like, you know, when I started getting full ride offers, people were joking. People who knew I made better grades than them were joking that I was getting full ride offers because I was black. So like, this is like my reality, and I'm not really bitter about it, but like none of this really changes much for me as far as my art and what I do with it. Because like the song Too Soon sounds like I wrote it because I was mad about George Floyd and Ahmaud and Breonna, but my buddy and I did that song in 5 hours in May 2019, and nothing had happened. We were about to go on tour. We had just played for a few thousand people and were happy. We just put the beat together, and I was like, you know, I'm kind of thinking about the state of the world right now, and wrote the song. Like, you know, it's just, it's sadly regular. What this situation has changed is, from an urgency standpoint, is my commitment to doing research about communities and how to get resources back to communities that are struggling and over-policed, because nothing's going to change until we actually take dollars and convert that into things that people are missing. So like a kid in a food desert with a bunch of gang violence around them when the gangs were literally formed to protect themselves against state oppression. Like, and then we're flooded with drugs. That's a whole different conversation, right? But all that goes back to like, hey, resources were blocked. So as an artist, I can talk about this stuff, but I definitely have the connections and influence to do more than talk about it in my art. So the urgency there has come up. My creative process when people approach me about writing something, it depends on what it is. In the sense of David, I understood the message of the song and I wanted to just talk about hope and make sure that I stayed in that range. But I also am just unquestionably committed to writing honestly exactly where I am, exactly at that time, anytime I'm writing anything, but especially like regardless of who's asking me to do what. So my partner and I just watched Silence of the Lambs like right before David asked me to write this verse. So I basically, usually when I write anything, I hear cadences in my head. I guess that's the jazz trombonist in me. And then I have like ending bars or punchlines or stuff, and it's kind of like this space that I just fill. And the visual representation of it is literally how it works in my brain. I'm like, me writing is basically me doing this. So in that case, it's like, okay, hope. I need to work and put some lotion on its skin or gets the hose again into this verse because I can't get that line out of my head. And that's basically how that happened. With other rappers reaching out to me for features, I think two things. Like I want to represent the message that they want on the song, and I'm also trying to completely destroy them on their own song. And I love them. I don't work with people I don't like a lot, but I literally tell people it's very rare. Sometimes I'll just ride the beat and be chill on the verse, but for the most part, if you ask me to rap on your song, I'm gonna try to destroy you. I just am. That's just how I think. And when it's somebody who's really, really dope, like Ran, it's not even necessarily trying to destroy, it's just trying to keep up because he's ridiculous. And I think generally that's my entire thought process, and I'm just picking apart things to try to stay true to the song while also staying true to myself. I do voice recordings a lot, and then I forget to check them, and then I'll have a freak out where I'm like, I haven't checked my voice recorder in 3 months, and then I'll listen to everything like, yo, this is so dope, what is wrong with me? I also, though, the main thing I do is I'm just writing all the time randomly. It's like a squirrel eating or something. So like I keep, it used to be Evernote, now I have more work off of Google Docs. Every month I have a doc that's that month, like July 2020 lyric lines. And I get something and I'll just throw it in there. And so the other thing, I guess I didn't mention this before, the other part of my writing process is when I'm writing anything, I go look through my lyrics lines docs and just to scan through, does anything jump out? No? Cool. Write everything down. But sometimes a lot of times it'll be something that I wrote that was really dope and it just is in its own space that just fits where I'm going on a particular verse. As far as composing music, is more in clusters for me, whereas I write just about every day. I don't make beats a lot, so especially since I started collaborating with other producers to try to get out of my head a little bit. With the trombone stuff, It's kind of a mix, like, but it all starts with me making a beat and kind of being surprised at the fact that I don't really want to rap on it. I really just play on it. And I haven't done that a lot, but some of it's improvised and some of it's like me writing a riff and learning it and then recording it. I both arrange or have stuff arranged that I've already written and adapted across groups and like writing that new material. So the Fantastics is more Kemet's brainchild. So I do add stuff to that. We do have stuff that like I've contributed, but it's mostly stuff that the band put together a while back, or that creative process is actually really cool now because we'll have stuff that comes together just from a practice session that turns into a wild jam, and then we record all the practice sessions now for jamming something, and we'll listen to it and then turn it into a song. So in that way, I'm writing with them. Most of what people have heard from Brass and Bougie has been Marcus arranging stuff I've already written, and then the Desk Chat is just an extension of myself. Things that I appreciate about collaborating with other musicians is I don't think there's a purer way to actually engage with a person who also is a creative than to work with them on a creation, because you're getting something that's like the essence of their soul, you know? That's like, I don't want to be like super meta, but that's kind of how I feel about it. I really need to have some kind of respect for you, connection to you. So that's one thing. The other thing, though, I think is collaborations are really advantageous because you're cross-pollinating from a marketing standpoint without having your marketing hat on. It's just like you did something with somebody, they're going to share it with their people, you're going to share it with your people, and that's kind of mutually beneficial in some way. And you establish relationships or not. You know, the song with Jess and I are pretty good friends now, but when I asked her to do that song, I heard her because she opened for the Fantastics for Mid-Coast Takeover fundraiser a couple years ago, and I was just like, oh my God. So I bugged her, and I hope I didn't creep her out too much. I was like, hey, I just need you to do this song. And so she came, knocked out the song, but then she started having me play on some of her bigger stuff once we got to know each other a little bit. And now, like, we're working on some stuff, like, very spaced out because we're both super busy, but there's some stuff that we've got that's, like, awesome. And I also just am so in love with her. She is just so, I think she's so great. And that's really what happens a lot. You know, Rand went from somebody I admire to being my big brother. Richie, we were collaborating online for like 7 months before we met in person, and I felt like I had known him like my entire life. The guys in the people in the MPC collective, now that we're moving and we have like a bit of a rotation, we see one another like 4 or 5 times a year in different chunks. But there was a point where we never saw each other in person, and we were still like tight because we were collaborating on the internet. Like, we met on the internet. Even beyond that, from a social justice, social change standpoint, I learn a lot from the people I work with. So, for example, Sauce and Kemet are so heavy on like the policy and urban planning and social justice, and I'm just like, we work together in a number of different capacities at this point, but I'm just learning from these people with regard to like how I can go educate myself further on what's happening specific to Kansas City as a transplant, and just resources that I can look at, things I can do strategically to try to make positive change in my community, which I think is the thing that gets lost sometimes. But musicians tend to be people who like are trying to make some kind of impact some way or another. That's not like everyone, but I think that's really valuable too. And like I just like a smart, ambitious guy, cis guy, you know, there's a lot about women that I like, you know, had to just grow into or like to understand, just as far as like the patriarchy and misogyny and whatnot. And my relationships help me a lot because I end up with fireballs who don't take crap. But the other thing is like just working with women also I think is really, really huge, because like I am consistently around like just these absolutely gorgeous inside and out people, and I have to put myself in a place of learning from them and working with them versus objectifying them. And like there was like this Rick Ross interview where he said just some really messed up stuff about why he doesn't sign women, basically that like he couldn't handle that as a guy, which is completely absurd, right? But there's like, and it's not just women, it's like just working with different people, and learning what their experiences are as you collaborate with them and giving you a broader understanding of like different facets of humanity, you know. I think that's really cool too.